This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Living with Coronavirus. I'm Rishika Barua. Well, this is the show where we talk about how to live and grapple with the daily nuances of the new normal that we're all facing. Joining us on the broadcast this evening, we have Dr. Rajiv Gupta. He's a professor of cardiology at the GMC Hospital in Bhopal. We also have with us another very special guest, Dr. Prabhat Pandey. He's a senior consultant physician at the CM Hospital in Bhilai in Chhattisgarh. Appreciate you, doctors, for being with us on the broadcast, for sparing your valuable time to answer our questions. I want to begin by asking you, Dr. Gupta, it's been observed that, many patients are not visiting hospitals. Many are worried, that they will contract the coronavirus infection if they visit a hospital or a clinic. What would you like to tell those patients? What are the kind of precautions, say, you're taking at your own hospital or your own OPDs, Dr. Gupta?
It is a genuine concern of the patients and their relatives of avoiding getting out of home and visiting a doctor's clinic or a hospital, even though these patients have an ailment which could be pre-existing in the form of a chronic disease like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, or associated lung disease. And they have been on treatment for that. Or a new onset of disease which they try to manage by way of a telemedicine consultation or a telephonic consultation to a familiar doctor. We have to make them re-emphasize that in case of medical need, they should be visiting their doctor who is well managing the atmosphere of the clinic or the hospital. Not forgetting that social distancing, maintaining a safe space of workstation in the clinic, a proper ventilation in the clinic or hospital, and not having a closed air conditioning system in an area of waiting which would be crowded. Monitoring of the temperature,
right,
and even taking a pre-visit opinion about the ailment would help in reducing the waiting time and preparing the case history. And a safe distancing in the doctor's clinic, and also avoiding frequent contacts with displayable placards, magazines, or other things which have to be removed from the clinic.
Okay, so very interesting. There are a whole host of precautions, of course, that are taken. But Dr. Pandey, what are the precautions that doctors take while they are examining patients?
You see, doctors have to take a lot of precautions in this COVID era while examining the patient. We all know that the ICMR has released various guidelines for the doctors for examining the patient. So the various kind of doctors in which they are dealing with, for example, if they are doing the OPD practice, they are working in the hospital or they are working in the ICU. So most of the doctors, private or in a government sector, which are dealing with the maximum number of patients are doing the OPD practice. So the doctors who are doing the OPD practice should take full precautions for themselves. So when they see the patient, not only the patient has to be made hygienic, that they should take the temperature of the patient at the entry, then they should give sanitization to the patients. Then while examining the patient, doctor should wear a complete protection kit. The various PPE, personal protection examination kit, which includes the head cap, then for the care of the eye, you have to use the glasses, then use the mask, then wear the gloves. And these are the minimum precautions one has to take while examining the OPD patients. And if the doctor is working in the ward, for example, in a COVID ward, or he is seeing some COVID serious patient in ICU, then he has to be in full-fledged PPE, and he has to wear the whole PPE kit along with all the precautions which he has to take as an examining an OPD patient.
All right, so a lot of precautions are being taken by doctors as well as they go about, dealing with different patients on a daily basis. But Dr. Gupta, if I can come back to you, as people start going back to work, as people, start accessing public places once again, especially here in India, there are a lot of questions that are associated with the idea of central air conditioning, ventilation or heating systems for that matter, and could they be spreading the virus? What are the rules that govern air conditioning?
Yeah, a very valid concern about air conditioning and closed spaces in the clinics or public places. The whole controversy got birth from spread of corona cases in China in a closed area which had a central air conditioning system. And then we subsequently realized that in a closed air conditioning system, if you have a patient infected with corona, he would be a source of spread of this infection. But if the patient is in a solitary area and air conditioning is working for him, it would not affect the other people. Even in a household or a public place, entry of people who are presumed or supposed to be infected with corona should bring a hindrance to the use of centrally air conditioning system. And precisely that is what promotes an open ventilatory system in an area which has lot of movement of people, and a few of them may have to be bearing the infection of corona.
Right. So is it then safe, doctor, or do you recommend that centralized air condition should not be used in public places?
Yeah, because however closely we may monitor the entry of people in that space, but unless you are sure, and even monitoring by temperature or symptoms or history may exclude a few suspected patients. So if it is possible, better to avoid a closed air conditioner system in an area which has number of people visiting.
All right. So in an area which has a number of people visiting, but you can't really ascertain, the history of each and every person or the medical condition of each and every person, it's perhaps better to avoid centralized air conditioning. But as the economy opens up, Dr. Pandey, e-commerce, of course, has gained momentum. People feel like it's safer to order packages, online and then have them delivered to their homes as opposed to physically going into public places, especially like malls, etc. Even food deliveries have become, relatively common in an era where people are not going out and eating. What's the kind of protocol that should govern packages, whether it's food or other items, Dr. Pandey?
Yeah, as far as the packaged food items delivery and its consumption is concerned, one has to be very careful and one has to be very, very rest assured that the packaged food from where it is coming has been prepared in a well hygienic condition, because we have seen in most of the places where the COVID patient have been found positive, that area has been declared as a containment zone and the whole area has been sealed. So if that hotel or that restaurant belong to that area, naturally no food items can be delivered from that area.
All right, very interesting, that you're talking, in fact, about the rules and regulations that actually govern, package delivery at a time like this. But just a very quick follow-up question, if you are receiving a package at home, what should be the protocol in dealing with that package?
If at all everything is all right and everything is fully hygienic, the packaged food should be delivered properly in an absolute hygienic condition, and the person also who is receiving it shall also follow the perfect hygienic condition. So taking packaged food, if prepared in a fully hygienic condition, delivered properly and then it can be taken and consumed, and there is no harm in taking it.
All right, very interesting, in terms of management of packages that are coming from outside. Dr. Gupta, if I could rope you into the conversation here, there's a special focus on cardiac patients, at the time of COVID-19. Are symptoms COVID-19 symptoms different in cardiac patients? Do they manifest differently in cardiac patients as opposed to others?
You would appreciate that a pre-existing cardiac disease, whether it is coronary artery disease, hypertensive heart disease, or LV dysfunction, has predominant presentation as either breathlessness, heaviness of chest, at times palpitation, fatigue, and chest pain. All these manifestations can be common to a presentation of COVID illness, and not ignoring that COVID falls into a disease initially of viremia, then a cytokine storm where there is abundance of interleukin 6 and presents as an inflammatory disease, and also a procoagulatory or a thromboembolic disease. All of these symptoms could mimic a pre-existing cardiac disease. Unfortunately, in a COVID patient, if there is a thromboembolic disease, the presentation could be for the first time. And similarly so, if there is a cytokine storm, then the inflammatory markers, whether it is CRP, ferritin, D-dimer, or interleukin 6, are increased and also present clinically as an inflammatory disease.
All right. I want to also bring in Dr. Pandey into the conversation, because it's not just heart patients but also diabetes patients who are who are focused on in terms of them being a vulnerable section. What are the levels or medical parameters that should be monitored by a diabetic patient? How frequently should these readings say be shared with a doctor, Dr. Pandey?
You see, in this COVID era, the diabetic patient require much strict monitoring as far as their blood sugar levels are concerned. You see, in the last few months, because of the lockdown and even in the post-lockdown period, our physical activity has restricted very much. And naturally, it causes a lot of disruption in the blood sugar level. And at the same time, the food habits have also been changed. The persons or the patient who are inside the house and their physical activity are restricted and their food habits are disturbed. So it causes the fluctuation in the blood sugar level. So they need the monitoring of the blood sugar level much more frequently than what they have been doing earlier, so as to see that their dose requirement is increased or reduced as per the requirement. So keeping this fact in the mind that the blood sugar variation are likely to happen much more in this lockdown period and the post-lockdown period, and also because of the restricted activity and the change in the habits of the food intake, blood sugar monitoring requires much more strict and much more efficiently for maintaining a good diabetic control.
All right, very interesting, various different elements that diabetes and heart patients both need to actually be watching out for. We're going to slip into a very short break at this moment, but Dr. Pandey and Dr. Gupta will continue to be live with us on the other side. Stay tuned.
Knowledge Partner, USV, your reliable healthcare partner.
चेन्नई में इतने, मुंबई में इतने, यहाँ ज्यादा, वहाँ कम। ये है क्या? वही जो हर कंपनी छुपाना चाहती है, पर एयरटेल नहीं। ये गिनती है कस्टमर्स के सवालों की जो इस वक्त हमारे सिस्टम में है।
ये सब क्यों दिखा रहे हैं?
क्योंकि हम चाहते हैं कि एक दिन हमारे सिस्टम में 0 क्वेश्चंस, 0 कंप्लेंट्स हो।
मतलब एयरटेल से किसी को कोई शिकायत नहीं होगी?
फालतू कथा।
इम्पॉसिबल।
माना ये इम्पॉसिबल है, पर कोशिश तो हम करेंगे।
गट्स है।
इंडोर कवरेज, लॉकडाउन में रिचार्ज और स्लो डेटा स्पीड जैसे लाखों सवालों के जवाब हम दे चुके हैं, और आपके हर सवाल का जवाब ना दें तब तक हम रुकेंगे नहीं।
नमस्कार। कोरोना के खिलाफ इस लड़ाई में सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी है लोगों की जान बचाना, और इसमें मुझे आपकी मदद की जरूरत है। लोगों को प्लाज्मा मिलने में तकलीफ ना हो, इसके लिए दिल्ली सरकार ने भारत का पहला कोरोना प्लाज्मा बैंक बनाया है। अगर आपको ठीक हुए 14 दिन हो चुके हैं तो आप भी प्लाज्मा डोनेट करके किसी भी कोरोना संक्रमित व्यक्ति की जान बचा सकते हैं। और हाँ, घबराइए नहीं, प्लाज्मा देने में आपको कोई कमजोरी नहीं आएगी। किसी की जान बचाने का मौका बहुत कम लोगों को मिलता है। आज आपके पास ये मौका है। मेरी आपसे प्रार्थना है, आगे आएं और प्लाज्मा डोनेट करें।
The Sikh tradition of langar is about ensuring food for the hungry. No matter who you are welcome with open arms at the Guru Ka Langar.
इन्होंने शुक्रगुजार है मालिक का जो इन्होंने इतना साथ दिए।
लंगर का मैं वाहिगुरु का प्रसाद है,
डेली बांट रहे हैं, इनकी मेहरबानी, भगवान भला करे इनको।
Watch a special show on how the Gurudwaras have fed over 1.5 crore people during the pandemic. Dil Se Seva, feeding millions, Saturday at 11:30 a.m. and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
With the unlocking begins the revival of economy. Government of Chhattisgarh opens up new possibilities. Chhattisgarh is leading the way in areas like GST collections, auto sector, agricultural development and forest produce, registry, etc. From a GST collection of 2,093 crore rupees in June 2019, the state saw a 22% increase to 2,549 crore rupees in June 2020. The state is number 2 in the country in terms of auto sales and registration. Chief Minister Bhupesh Bagel's visionary programs have accelerated the pace of economic development even in adverse conditions. There has been a 17% increase in this year's revenue from registry as compared to June 2019. Chhattisgarh has set a new record in employment. It is the leading state in the country to provide 100 days of employment to job card holding families under Manrega. Agriculture development in the state has come in for praise from the Reserve Bank of India. Chhattisgarh is the leading state in the collection of minor forest produce at 46,039.40 metric tons worth 104 crore rupees. The state also figures among the leading states in terms of COVID-19 recoveries.
How do I look?
Yeah.
Ah, forget it.
Wow.
Hello, MG. How do I look today?
You look amazing.
You've got a lot to learn.
The all-new 6-seater MG Hector Plus. It's a human thing.
Welcome back. So we're talking about living in times of coronavirus and how we can mitigate our daily lives. What do we need to do in order to be able to adapt to the new normal? Let me, take the next question to Dr. Gupta, because there's a lot of, talk about the drugs that can potentially treat COVID-19. What's your take on the use of remdesivir as a treatment option for critically ill patients, Dr. Gupta?
Great. We have been looking with a lot of expectations to the available non-conventional drugs acting on COVID. Then we have been looking for an antiviral drug, and finally we moved on to an interleukin-6 antagonist to prevent the cytokine storm. But of great interest has been generated in moderate and severe patients of COVID with this drug, and the expectation are also coming true in the terms that we can maintain an oxygen saturation. We can stop these patients of deteriorating into a ventilatory need, and also shortening the course of the instability of the disease. So this drug has been tried in number of places, number of institutes, and we have a slight experience in terms of reducing the morbidity in patients who have a moderate or moderately severe illness.
All right, so that's of course on the use of remdesivir. But Dr. Pandey, can you explain to us the difference between home isolation and quarantine in a hospital? Does it vary from state to state? We know the rules are different. In certain states, home isolation is not permitted, and in certain states, it is in fact encouraged. Dr. Pandey.
So the home isolation and the quarantine are basically the methodologies to treat the COVID patient or the COVID suspect patient. The basic idea is to keep them isolated, and these strategies have been different slightly in the different states, but of course grossly they are following the ICMR guidelines. The various states have, as per their need, they have made it a little stricter in the guidelines, because they cannot loosen it, the central guidelines. If the COVID person is turned out to be a positive, then probably he needs a quarantine in a place which is called a COVID hospital, which is run under the supervision of the government officials, and he needs probably to be hospitalized. But all those patients who are a suspect of COVID, or for example, those who are coming from the outside or who has been in the close contact with a COVID patient and who are likely to get COVID positive later, they probably could be put on the home isolation, which is for 14 days and at some places might be for 28 days. In the meantime, if they develop any symptom, they are subjected for the COVID treatment into the COVID hospital. So basically all those patients who are COVID positive, they need quarantine in a COVID hospital which are run under the supervision of the government healthcare sector, and all those patients who are suspect probably could be put into the home isolation so that they do not infect others. The basic idea of both the strategy is not only to keep the patient isolated so that they do not spread the disease in the society. So this is the difference between the quarantine and home isolation. Of course, the idea is same, to prevent the person for spreading the infection.
All right, Dr. Gupta, is there anything that you'd like to add? Who are the patients who are okay to stay at home? Who are the patients, you think, what are the telltale signs that they should in fact seek hospital care?
Yeah, very well elucidated that healthcare workers, hospital staffs, patients who come in accidental contact with a COVID patient, patients who come in contact with a COVID carrier, and then travelers from outside would form these separate categories. Healthcare workers, if they come in contact with a COVID patient, needs home isolation or isolation and monitoring, because they would be reporting. And then on the 5th and 7th day, we can do a COVID test for them. Patients related to a COVID patient definitely need home isolation and monitoring of the COVID. Travelers would do well with home isolation again. The only high-risk patients who develop symptoms would need hospital management or monitoring under supervision.
Right, very interesting. Would you like to add anything, Dr. Pandey, on at what point should a patient consider hospitalization? Supposing you're diagnosed initially, the symptoms are mild, but then at what point, or what are the things that you should watch out for, which is when you should be considering hospitalization?
As I said, the COVID patient needs hospitalization. The moment he comes positive, probably he needs hospitalization under the supervision of the government healthcare, for the reason that if he develops further symptoms, he might go into the serious problem. So better if he gets positive, and if he starts getting any symptoms or is getting progression of the symptom, he should be hospitalized. So as far as the hospitalization of the COVID positive patient concerned, once he starts getting symptoms and the symptoms are progressive, it is better to be hospitalized under the supervision of the government healthcare, so that he is not only properly treated, but he is also prevented from spreading of the infection to the other people nearby.
Right, and Dr. Gupta, the other important aspect is, of course, for those who are caring for a COVID-19 patient, we know hydroxychloroquine is recommended as a prophylactic, but what are the kind of precautions that they should be taking?
The Indian Council of Medical Research has very clearly mentioned and recommended the use of HCQAs in patients who are healthcare workers or carriers, contact of carriers. Now, if you have a pre-existing heart disease or you on drugs which may increase the QT interval on the ECG, these are the patients who are predisposed to the side effect of arrhythmias or even a sudden cardiac ailment presenting as a sudden cardiac death. So you should be monitoring patients very carefully, more so if they are taking hydroxychloroquine, and do a ECG to monitor the QT interval. And if it does not prolong, you are safe in using this drug. But if there is a prolongation of QT interval, it is worthwhile stopping or withholding this drug rather than purchasing a drastic side effect.
All right, anything you'd like to add, Dr. Pandey?
Yeah, nothing much, but we have to understand that this corona will remain with us for quite little longer period of time, probably for next few months. So we have to remain very, very watchful and careful and vigilant as far as not only keeping yourself keeping yourself protected from the infection, but also so to see that it is not made spread into the society. We know that as our Honorable Prime Minister has said, that we have not only to keep ourselves safe from the corona, but at the same time we have to also live our life, which is necessary for our economy. So while working and while doing our routine day-to-day work, we have to keep ourselves fully hygienic, fully protected, and do our best, and we always remain watchful and careful so that we do not become carrier in spreading the disease.
All right, it's extremely important for everyone to be very careful and watchful, because going forward you just have to learn to adapt and live with the pandemic. Appreciate you doctors for taking out the time of day and answering our questions. Thank you very much for joining us.